All right, so warm up 3. You guys did this online, so I just want to make sure we talk about it and go through it. So Mona Lisa works at a store. She makes $8 an hour. Okay, makes $8 an hour plus time and a half for any hours over 40. She worked a total of 62 hours last week. Okay, so she worked her 40 hours plus some to get the 62. So it ever gives you the total hours instead of like 40 and 10 overtime hours. Make sure you find those overtime hours. It'll help you as you work through the problem. So to get 62, 62 minus 40 gives you 22. Those are your overtime hours. These are your regular hours. Okay. So how do we do straight time? That was something we talked about this week. How do we find straight time pay? Woody, what is 8? That's the amount she makes an hour. And the 40, what is that? That's her 40 hours or less regular hourly rate. Okay, so what is that total? What is that total? How many dollars? Money, money, monies. Olivia? $320. $320. So before she works any overtime, she already makes $320 before taxes. Good. So for part B, we're trying to calculate overtime pay. So we already did the whole overtime hours. So it's one less thing we have to worry about. So what does she make for overtime? What does she make for overtime? How do we find that? Steph? Where does the 1.5 come from? Your time and a half in the problem. Okay, so time and a half. So 8 times 1.5 gives you $12. So she earns $12 for every hour over 40. Okay, she worked 22 hours. Oops. She worked 22 hours over. So what's 12 times 22? Seth finished out. $264. No change. Just 264. Yeah, Michael, leaning on my window. You got stuck. Thank you. All right, so how do we find her total pay? How do we find total pay? If this was you, how would you find your total pay? Austin? Take 320, add it to 264. And when you do that, you get what, 584? 584? Do we have any questions? Anything at all? Phenomenal. Awesome. Okay, so weekly time card. A weekly time card. So next page, section 1.3. Okay, section 1.3. We're all on the same page. We're all working together. Okay. So the students will calculate time worked and filled out a time card accordingly. So I don't know how many places actually have you physically fill out a time card anymore. A lot of times it's just digital. So like, is anyone here like a server, waiter, waitress, anything like that? Are you really?
Yeah.
Really? So you clock in on the computer, right? Mm-hmm.
I've worked at places though that at time card,
Mm-hmm.
punch in, put in the machine. A lot of factories
Mm-hmm.
probably still do that.
So, like my first job, I worked at an ice cream stand, so we had to write in the time we get there, like write in when we took our break, and then write in when we left. And like whoever what adult was there, adult meaning they were 18 probably, to check to make sure our time card was correct. So we weren't putting like, oh, we really left at 7, but we wrote 10 o'clock, that kind of thing. The electronic system now is definitely more accurate. So you can't just like write something in and get paid for time that you weren't there. Okay. Does anyone still do the write-in that has a job now? The write-in system? Do you? Last year? Write it down. Yeah, to verify. So but before technology, you could imagine that some people probably got away with a whole lot more. But now with technology, a lot of times you just put in your little code that is associated with you, and then you clock in, you clock out. It keeps track of when you take a break, if you clock in and out. So that's how you get paid, how many hours you work. That's how they track it. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to figure out that information. So when you look at your schedule, you can say, oh, I have 15 and a half hours this week, or I have 20 and a half, or whatever the case may be. Okay, so would anyone like to read our little paragraph? No? Seth wants to. Go for it.
Objective. Search for calculate time work and fill out time card accordingly. At your job at Similar, you're required to keep track of your hours and weekly time card. This shows time you reported for work and the time you report each day of the week. Each day you compute the hours worked. The daily hours are added to give you the total number of hours worked that week. Round to the nearest quarter hour if you don't work an entire hour.
Awesome. So quarter hour, I mean, you guys have heard phrases, it's a quarter till, it's a quarter past. So when we're talking about a quarter, and when we're talking about a quarter, so like 1/4 is a quarter, and you guys have heard that, I'm hoping. 1/4 is, so 1/4 of an hour. 1/4 of an hour, so quarter of an hour equals 15 minutes. Okay, quarter of an hour, 1/4 of an hour, because there's 60 minutes in an hour, 1/4 of that is 15. So that's why they use that phrasing, quarter. Okay, so I would have that written somewhere just so you know you can reference it, because it's used a lot if you haven't heard that before. So quarter of an hour, quarter till, quarter past, 15 minutes till, 15 minutes past. Awesome. Okay, so definition, a record of the time you report. That is your weekly time card. Weekly time card. Okay. There we go. All right, so for formula, there's no real formula for this. You're just adding up all your hours. Okay, that's all you're doing. So you're figuring out how much you work that day, and then you're adding them up. Okay, so there's no real formula for that, because you all can add. You all can figure out your time, because we're going to practice that today, so I know you all can do it. Okay, so we're going to practice below in this lovely little box right here. Okay, so we're going to find our total hours for each part. There's 6 parts. Okay, so the first one right here, we start at 7 a.m. and we end at 12 p.m. So how many hours did I work from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m.? Seth, go for it. That's 5 hours. So you went from 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, and 11 to 12. So 5 total hours. So if you need to, I do this all the time, no joke, and this is what I do. 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12. Use your fingers, okay? I'm telling you, there's no shame. I do it, okay? And again, I do this. I teach this. I use my fingers just to make sure, okay? Count with your fingers. So what about the second one? From 2:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. How many total hours did we work that day? Winnie? 2.5. So let's count it out. We're good. So 2:30 to 3:30, that's 1. 3:30 to 4:30, that's 2. And then you have a little half guy, 4:30 to 5, 30 minutes. Half an hour is 30 minutes. So 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours. So 2:30 to 3:30, 3:30 to 4:30. And then you have your little half, your 4:30 to 5. Okay, do we have questions over 1 or 2? Are we okay? Okay, because I know it's gonna get a little trickier when we start throwing in like the 15 minutes and stuff, but if you can use your fingers and you understand like the half hour, the 15 minutes, the quarter past, all that stuff, then you'll be okay. Austin? It's on you. Okay, everybody's different, so if you prefer to have it, you know yourself. Okay, so number 3, we're just gonna go across. So we start at 8 a.m. and we literally do not stop working until 3 p.m. We don't take a break, we don't eat lunch, we don't take our 15 minutes that we're supposed to get. We literally work from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. How many total hours is that? 6, 7? You got 7? Let's count it out. 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10, 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. 7 hours. Okay, if you're unsure, use your fingers. Okay, 7 hours. Okay. Woody, will you close that door, please? Okay, so now it starts to get really fun. We have clock in time, a stop time, another start time, and an end time. So we actually took our lunch break this day. Okay, so take it in pieces. So we're going to do our start stop first. How many hours did I work in my first part of the day? Okay, 7:30 to 11. So 4.5. Mike, what do you say? 3.5? 3.5? Let's check it out. Okay. So I'm going to write it down. Okay, so 7:30 to 8:30. 8:30 to 9:30. 9:30 to 10:30. And then you have a little halfer. Technical terminology here. Okay, super technical. You have a little half hour in there. So how many hours is that? That's the 3.5. And Natalie, you good where that came from? Okay. So that's 3.5 hours. Is that the total time that I worked that day? No, because I clocked back in after I decided, eat some pizza and get all fat and go back to work and hopefully not fall asleep while working. Okay. So, working from start at 12, end at 5. How many hours did I work from 12 to 5? 5 hours. 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. Okay, so we have our 5 hours there. Is that my total for the day? Gonna add them? Yeah, you'll add them up. Why do we add them up? It's the same day. You clocked in and out. You took your hour-long lunch break. You are getting paid for the 8.5 hours that you were there. We all right? Yeah. Craziness. Yeah. I can't make my hand like twist all the way around. Do you want to try one on your own? I think you should. So the next one, I want you to try on your own. So starting at, oops, that's not 6, that is 5. Starting at 6 a.m., stopping at 11:30, Start again at 12 and end at 4. Go ahead and do your total hours for that day. And I'll leave this part up there. Go ahead and do your hours for that day. I'm gonna pause the recording so it's not. All right, so 6 a.m. to 11:30. Move it over so we can see. That's our first part of the day. So how many hours is that? Did we find? You said 5.5? 5.5? Did we get anything different, Michael? Just for the first part. Is that what you got, 5.5 for the first part? Okay, that's fine. I'm taking it in pieces because I think for learning, if you haven't seen this before, I think that's the easiest way. Some of you who've had jobs have seen this before. You guys are pretty comfortable with it. Natalie, do you have a question for that one? Yeah, for the first part. Okay, so let's do this together then, so we can make sure, because I think you're just adding one more each time. Because you're doing, I think you might be doing your subtraction wrong. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Okay, so let's do it. 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, that should be an 8, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have 11 to your 11 to 11:30. So 6.5 would be 12:30. Okay, so your first half of the day is that 5.5, so 5.5. So second half of the day, 12 to 4 is how many hours? You have 4 hours. 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. Okay, so 4. So when you add them up for the day, Michael, you said 9.5 hours. Do we agree? Yay.
I actually counted 30.
Well, you got it though, right? Okay, so let's do this next one together. Okay, let's do this next one together. So 6, because like Seth was saying, there's some 15-minute marks in there, and I want to make sure that we talk about it. So our first part of the day, I'll keep being consistent. I'll highlight it in yellow. We started at 8 and we ended at 11:15. Okay, so if we're going from 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, okay, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, that's 3 hours, right? But we went to 15 minutes, 11:15. So we have a little quarter of an hour in there. So remember we talked about the 1/4 of an hour equals 15 minutes. What is 1/4 as a decimal? 0.25. Okay, so when you write your 15 minutes, okay, when you have those or when you go to add them and combine them to something else, you'll use 0.25. So this part, your start of the day, is 3.25 hours. Okay. Yes, no, we're okay with that. Okay. Quarter of an hour, 1/4 is a decimal, 0.25. That's how you'll use it in your time card. Okay. So then we clocked back in at 11:45. We only took a half-hour lunch. Okay, from 11:15 to 11:45. That's 30 minutes. So we weren't on the clock then, but we worked until 4:30. So this is where it gets really fun. Okay. So we have 11:45. This is how I recommend you do it. Get rid of that 15 minutes the best you can. We can do this both ways, the way we've been talking about and the way I'm about to show you. So the way Seth and I had talked about, from 11:45 to 12, that's 15 minutes. Okay, do we agree with that? That's 15 minutes. Okay, so then 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and then you've got your 4 to 4:30. Okay, you with me still? Again, if you haven't done a time card before or you haven't seen a time sheet before, some of this may be new. So for those of you who are like, I'm good with this, I'm fine, just keep going with us. So this right here is 4 hours. Yes, 12 to 4. And then you have this little 4 to 4:30 guy that's 30 minutes.
You get 45.
Yeah. I'm getting there. Thank you. So we have 15 minutes, then 4 hours, then 30 minutes. So it's just kind of like the process. Like as you get more comfortable with this, you don't have to write all this stuff down. This is what you'll do mentally. Okay, 11:45 to 12, that's 15 minutes. Go through your hours and then combine everything. So 15 minutes we said was 0.25, right? Did we say that was 0.25? 4 hours, what would 30 minutes be as a decimal? Seth? 0.5. It's a half hour, it's a half, 0.5. And you can add them all up. And this section itself is 4.75 hours. Okay. There's a couple other ways to do this. Okay, this isn't the only way. Okay. Absolutely.
Like 4:30 p.m. Then it's 12. So then 4, if you think of 4 o'clock is like, right, you start at 12, 1 is 13, 2 is 14, 3 is 15, 4 is 16. So then really all it is 16.5 minus 11.75. And the difference is gonna be the same.
Military
That is
time.
right.
So, and you can by all means do military time because that is by far probably the easiest way. But there's some kids that just don't like the military time. And if you don't like it, that's totally fine too. If you don't like the way I do it, that's totally fine too. So yes, it's 10:55. So give me one more minute and you can go. Okay. So the other way I want to show you before you guys pack up and stop listening, okay, you could do from 12 to 4:30. How many hours is from 12 to 4:30? Austin? 4.5. So then if you know that 11:45 to 12 is 15 minutes, the 0.25, then you get your 4.75 hours. Okay. So then again, the total hours for the day, you would have to add them up because we did not do that part yet. So 7.75 hours. You do not have homework tonight. My Wamoko kids, you are free to go. I'm going to stop recording and we'll pick up with this tomorrow. You too. Thank you so much.